I'm a neurosurgeon, so I hope to keep you all engaged. I'm not going to be a boring medical talk. I'm just going to give you a kind of a bird's eye view of what is happening in terms of interaction between engineers and medical scientists. It's a very, very exciting time for both of us. There are a lot of interaction that happens now with the engineers as well as the doctors. So there's so many things. You all must have already read about many things, including Elon Musk's path-breaking thing that he's doing. So I'm going to just briefly touch upon from where we started and how we are at present now, and how these things basically have helped. Our ultimate goal is to improve patient life, right? So all these advancements, all this technical skill that we have gained, and all the help that we receive from the engineering disciplines is to make sure that our patients do very well and their quality of life improves. So without further ado, I'll just directly go into the talk. So this is the topic that you guys had, right? So we have the classical metamorphosis that all of us learned in school in biology. So that's from the larval stage up to the butterfly. So obviously it's a struggle and it's a period of time. It's not easy that from larva directly you can become a butterfly. So there is an evolution, there is a process. I think that is the most important thing that all of us have to understand, that it does take that time. It's not that you can just jump any of those stages and directly metamorphose into a butterfly. So that is the most important thing that all of us need to understand, that there is an evolution pathway and we need to follow that. This is an interesting picture that I found which showed metamorphosis that is happening as it is in neurosurgery. So you can see that as well as in the brain and in the spine, there is a lot of changes that have happened in the past so many centuries that since neurosurgery has been done. And I have been doing neurosurgery for almost 30 years now, and from my training days to what I do now, there is a huge jump and there is a huge difference in terms of technological advancement and help that I have got to improve the quality of my patients. So just to show you a few brief about myself, I was born into a family of a public sector employee. My father worked in the Indian telephone industry. I'm sure many of you may not even have seen this phone in your house, So when we were small kids, this was the phone, and this was very, very sought after. It was not as easy as it today. You go to a SIM card dealer, just to ask for a SIM and they give it to you and your connection is on. This never used to happen. This used to take ages, maybe 5 years sometimes even 7 years, 8 years. You need to know the right people, you need to have influence to get a phone connection. So that was the stage we were, where the simple things such like a telephone took so long to get, and then over a period of time we have reached a stage where you can just go out today and buy a SIM card in 2 minutes and your network is active. So this is just to show you that is the factory which kind of shaped our lives. Being a public sector employee, it was always a challenge for our parents to support us compared to what it is as of today, and they went out of their way. My elder brother was another inspiration. He's turned out to be an engineer. We all worked together. At that time, we didn't have many choices. All our dreams and aspirations were either to become an engineer or a doctor. So this is the school that I studied. It was a small local school in the same colony where we stayed. So it was an amazing school for the fact that I never had to travel. We could just walk to the school. There was no traffic jam. The air was completely clean. So we had a lot of time, and there was no mobile phones, right? So we had a lot of time to do what normal kids would do. We'd play outdoors, we would enjoy, and had a great time. And there was a very, very good science teacher. Her name was S.K. Nirmal. I still remember very well. I'm still in touch with her, who kind of inspired me or got this interest in me in biology. She was an excellent teacher. She would draw amazing diagrams on the chalk, with the chalk on the board, and all this kind of motivated me to take up medicine in future. So after that, obviously, like I told you, coming from a small place, you have to dare to dream. I think that is something that all of you are already aware of. If you don't have the will and the guts to dream, and sometimes dream big and make sure that you reach that dream, you have to work towards it. You have to really spend time and effort to reach that dream. So that is the very, very important thing. So because of all this inspiration and the family background, we chose to dare and to dream, and definitely ably supported by our own family and friends. We did that, and I did my undergraduation in Bangalore in MS Ramaiah Medical College. And after that, I went to the City of Dreams for my post-graduation. The City of Dreams obviously is Mumbai. It's a very, very highly populated city. All of you know that. It's got all kinds, huge variety of stuff. It's a brilliant place to learn because the volume of work is so much, especially in a field like medical field, where you need to see more and more patients and more things. to learn. So that's how I metamorphosed into a confident doctor and a confident neurosurgeon. So this is just another picture to show you the place where I spent most of my time. I spent 8 years in Mumbai. I did my general surgery and neurosurgery, both from the Lokmanya Tilak Sayan Medical Hospital, which was I can't explain to you, it was so busy that we had no time for anything else. All your life was about patients care, how do you do what you can do to get them better. And in a country like India, whenever there is a government hospital, the amount of patient load is so huge. And even doing a small surgery or making a small difference in patient life had a huge impact. I very distinctly remember there was this young boy who had come from an interior Maharashtra, Kolhapur or Solapur, I think, and he had a very, very huge tumor in the brain. The family was completely distraught. They had no finances. The parents were farmers. So obviously in a government hospital they didn't have to pay, but still they were so worried that this young child had to undergo this huge brain surgery. I did the surgery. It took almost 6 to 8 hours to do the surgery, and at the end of it, to our luck and God's blessing, this child did amazingly well. And you should see the joy on the face of the child and the parents. That's the kind of thing that you get in the medical field that kind of makes you feel so happy and satisfied that you have made a difference in patients' lives. So that had a lasting impression on my psyche, and I always felt that you should always try and go out and do as much as you can to help the quality of life of patients around you. So coming to neurosurgery metamorphosis. So that was about me, and after I finished my residency, I came back to Bangalore, and then I went to Tokyo to do an advanced course on what I'm going to talk about Parkinson's disease surgery. And then I now write at the Bangalore hospitals. In various Bangalore hospitals I have worked, and right now I work at Fortis Hospital. So this is just to show you how neurosurgery has changed. So this is the very famous picture, I'm sure many of you might have seen. This is Shushruta. The guy who was called the first surgeon in India. So it's not like we were any behind when compared to the West in terms of adapting techniques and adapting surgery into our lives. Shushruta was such a very well-known surgeon. Even today, some of the techniques that he has described are still very valid. So this is one of the pictures in which he is shown where he is doing a surgery to replace the broken nose. So he takes a patch of skin from the forehead and then puts it onto the nose. This is still practiced even today. So that is the extent of knowledge that we had even at that time. This is another person, his name is Jivaksha. He was a surgeon to the Buddha. So that is another neurosurgeon who was treating Buddha and his disciples. So that is the kind of advancement that we had. These people lived way before Hippocrates. We think Hippocrates is the father of modern medicine. He lived about 400 BC. These guys were like 600 BC or even before that. So that's the proud fact that we should be acknowledged. So where did it start? It started from all this. So you can see this was called trephination, or just making a hole in the skull. So there were various things that were being done. There were various instruments that they used. They used these kind of devices. There were these guys. This was a French painting where they did make the patient stand and then do this. Imagine the horror of all this, right? Imagine somebody holding you and then drilling a hole into your head. It's like really unimaginable right now. It's so scary, so painful. It can be like bloody and horrible, right? So Shushruta, when he did these kind of surgeries, actually advocated the patients to drink wine. They should drink wine to an extent where they become intoxicated to a level where they no longer have this sensation, or even you would ask them to have opium or some kind of a sedative. That much knowledge was there. But this is the crude neurosurgery that was there in the beginning. So why was this done? This was done for various reasons. People believed that they could cure epilepsy. Patients who had injuries in the war, there was these multiple battles, right? So when they had injuries in the war, they would do this and release the blood from the brain, and they hoped that that will help them. And even they did for releasing spirits. Can you believe? That was the belief, that if you make a hole in the skull, the spirits will go away. So this is just to show you a picture of all these Neolithic skulls. And these are all have been discovered right now. It's not something that we are imagining. These were all found, and you can see all these kind of various instruments. They used a sharp tooth, they used a flint stone. This was done with probably some other sharp instruments, and these were the kind of instruments that were used at that time to make these holes and do brain surgery. Compared to that, this is what I use today. So you can see how much engineering has helped us, how much understanding physics has helped us in doing surgeries at a much more safer level, and also to make sure that the surgeries are done smoothly and safely. So you can see this is what I use. This is a very, very advanced drill, high-speed electric drill, and these are the kind of instruments and attachments that I have. So I have become so much more precise and refined compared to what these guys do. And like I told you about the anesthesia, another important step, not only in neurosurgery but in all surgical specialties, was the discovery of anesthesia, right? This happened in 1847, William Morton was a dentist. So that was the first case in which he showed when the patients were made to inhale ether. I'm sure some of you might have used this chemical in your labs. When they inhaled the ether, or nitrous oxide was another thing, these patients would lose consciousness and would not remember or having any pain about the surgery. Compared to that, what I use today in my surgical anesthesia is way, way advanced. We have an extremely advanced kind of neuroanesthesia right now, where patients have no memory, no pain, and wake up with a completely fresh feeling. So that is the kind of advancement that we have in terms of anesthesia also. So what is the next other important metamorphosis that happened and that changed the practice of neurosurgery? Obviously, before we could never see what is happening in the skull, right? You can't just take an X-ray. If you just take an X-ray, you could only see the bone. You could never see the brain or any other structures within the skull. So Godfrey Hounsfield, he was the guy who discovered the CT scan. So again, this was a collaboration between a medical scientist and a doctor. He was an amazing guy. He discovered these X-rays, and along with Alan Cormack, was awarded the Nobel Prize. So these are the guys who did path-breaking kind of a discovery and which helped mankind in general in a great way. So this is the current CT scan. I just put you to show you. So this was how the first CT scan looked, and this is how hi-fi the latest CT scan looks. So now we have what is called as a 256 slice CT scan. That means it can take 256 slices of the brain in a matter of say 10 seconds. So that's the kind of advancement. I mean, the GE offices here, they have one of the biggest manufacturer of these equipments, and there's an amazing advancement in terms of imaging. The next step after X-ray, what was the worry with X-ray? Obviously was the fact that it was radiation, right? So you didn't want the patients to receive radiation. So the next biggest discovery was MRI scanning. Again, another collaboration between the physicians and the medical scientists. So we had Dr. Raymond Damodian in 1977 discovered that, and so this was the first MRI and how it looked, and this is how today the new MRI looks. What does MRI do? Basically, it's a magnet. Okay, so the magnet sends out beams of rays. Our water molecules in our body and the cells have particular magnetic capacity. So whenever this happens, whenever there is a magnetic pulse, the way the cells react, that is being processed, and that process gives us an image. So today we have a magnet which is as low as 0.5 Tesla to up to 7 Tesla. So that is the kind of advancement that is happening. The higher the strength of the magnet, higher is the resolution of the image. It is like looking at a low quality video and a 4K HD video. So the 4K HD is the higher strength magnet, and the low quality video is the lower magnet. So now we have, even in my center, we have a 3 Tesla magnet, and many of the research centers have a 7 Tesla magnet. So that is the extent of advancement that you have. So all of us know that brain is composed of electrical networks. So this is a very familiar picture to all of you, I understand. So this is actually an electron microscopic picture of a neuron with the wires that it goes. It's called the axon, and all of them conduct electricity. Okay? So that is the premise of Parkinson's that I'm going to talk to you about in the next few slides, which is the last part of that. So Parkinson's basically is what a disease. It's a disease in which this particular chemical in the brain, which is called the dopamine, becomes less. So in a normal neuron, you can see there is a lot of dopamine that is there, whereas in the Parkinson's patients, the dopamine becomes very less. And especially in this particular part of the brain, which is called as the substantia nigra. This is called the brain stem, or which is in the center of the brain and deep inside the brain. So these patients have all these symptoms. I'm sure some of you may have seen in your family members or relatives suffering from this disease. So what is the initial treatment? The initial treatment obviously is to just replace the dopamine that is not there. So that's what was the traditional problem, traditional method. They did giving medicines and see how they improve. So next what we did is called deep brain stimulation. So it is a very, very advanced therapy in which we put electrodes into these areas which don't have this dopamine. So basically, like I told you, when there is an electrical current abnormality, we want to correct that electrical abnormality, right? So that's what this surgery does. And again, this is a combination of physicists and medical scientists. So you have an electrode in the brain, there is an extension of the wire, and then there is a pacemaker which is connected to that. I'm not sure whether you can appreciate this, but this is the area of the brain where I want to put the electrode. So this area is actually a very, very small electrode. I'm not again sure whether you can see it, but this is the area. This is the 7 Tesla. In this you can see that. So this is the area of the brain which is almost 5 by 7 millimeter. That's small. So that's the area where I want to target and put these electrodes. So how do I do that? So I do that by the use of these frames. So this is again another discovery or a metamorphosis that happened, which helped me to reach into these deep areas of the brain. So this is a frame which we fix on the patient's head, and with that we have another attached arc through which we are able to reach into these very, very specific areas of the brain and then change the electrical activity that is happening within the brain. And that modulates the brain, and all these symptoms that I was showing you in the first slide significantly improve. So this is to show you what is the advancement that we have, so we can have all this AI integrated software that is there in the particular planning station where you can map and put all this. So this almond shaped structure is the place where I want to be, and this is the path that I take to reach that area. So this is just to show you what we do in the OT. So we actually have a device in which we can record the activity of the neurons. So that is the extent of advancement that has happened. Each single neuron produces a pattern of firing which I can now record and understand whether I am in the right place or not. So this is to show you when I do this surgery, patient is awake, so he's not sleeping. Okay, so you can see that my colleague is checking the patient and speaking to him. So what happens when I do that is that I get a constant feedback. So imagine somebody having a brain surgery and he's awake. Why that happens is God has designed the brain in such a beautiful way that even if I cut the brain, the patient will have no pain. Brain has no sensation of pain. The pain is only on the skin and the bone. After that, there is no pain. So imagine a center which receives all the inputs of the brain has no pain sensation. So this is just to show you the kind of severity that some people have. So you can see this patient was an army officer, okay? Army officer who could not move, and see the amount of tremors that he had and the movement that he had. And we had such a challenge fixing the frame that I had to actually give him a medicine. So this is the same person after the surgery. So you can see the tremor is completely gone. So he's off all his medicines and he's only on the electrical modulation that I have done. So that's the kind of satisfaction that you get, right? Somebody who could not even sit without shaking so much, he's able to do all this and he's got back to his work. So this just to show you the same thing. So this white dot that you're seeing is the electrode that we have put inside the brain. So now we have an advancement. Because we are engineers, I'm just showing you that instead of giving current all around, we have 3 divisions wherein we can direct the current to the area that we want. So what is the future? I'm sure I was just discussing with your chemistry professor that everybody wants now AI and ML, right? I understand that's the in branch that everybody wants. Nobody wants to become an electronics engineer. Nobody wants to become a mechanical engineer. So obviously that's because of such an exciting field, right? It's a very, very exciting field. So even in brain, see this is a robo that we actually have in our hospital. I'm not talking about something that is science fiction. Right now I'm talking only what is happening. So this is the robo that we have in our hospital, which we can do all this. We can navigate. You can see this is the OT suit that is available. This is another robo. This is another robo which is using things to do surgery on the brain. Okay, basically in surgery on the brain, we can't do like how we do for abdomen, it just pushes an electrode. So we use this kind of an AI technology now. We have these Vision Pro glasses with which you can see things, simulate things like this, and even help medical students learn more about anatomy and the disease. So this is just another picture similar to show you somebody wearing the Vision Pro glasses and doing that. This is just last slide to show you why is it a challenge in neurosurgery, right? So see, this is a very, very important vessel. It's a very, very important nerve, this white color, which supplies, the face sensation, and you have to operate when it is pulsating. So it's like somebody keeps saying, what is the big deal in doing any neurosurgery? So even if I am 1 millimeter away, from these structures, you can see that it can cause devastating consequences. Patients may not get up also. It's that kind of a severity, and you can see that's the dissector that I am using to operate on this level. So these are all happening because of the advancement that we have in engineering and advancement that we are having in the medical science together. So this is the last slide. I'm sure all of you must have read about the Neuralink. So this is Elon Musk's Neuralink thing. Now it's almost more than, I think, 100 days since the first guy got an implant. He has had an amazing response. So what does this do? So this is the small chip that is implanted in the brain. This is about 2048 contact points or electrodes, which recognizes and senses the same activity that I was showing you, and then the patient is able to control it just by his thought process. So this fellow was a quadriplegic because of an accident. That means he can't move his hands and legs, but because with the brain he is able to move the cursor. So this is the kind of science fiction that we are talking about. So what is the worry? The worry is that, okay, will this lead to problems? Will this lead to a place where we have cyborgs, like people having control by a computer? May not, still we have not reached the stage. There are millions of neurons. This one is still recording 2048 neurons, that's all. So we hope and see that these things move forward. And like I've been telling you repeatedly, all this technology and all this advancement, our ultimate goal is obviously to improve patient care. So this was the place where I was when I was in Tokyo. This was my boss from Tokyo who taught me all this. Thank you so much for listening.